Hello, everyone. My name is James Williams, and I lead the transactional business and intellectual property practice areas at Tingen Law.
Well, James, thanks for coming to visit with me today. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk to you about you, and so that everybody who visits our page and visits your page can find out a little bit more about you. So, first of all, though, I also want to set the tone for the firm. So, what is a superior client experience? What does that mean to you?
So, a superior client experience to me means not only doing the job well, but also maintaining integrity.
Yeah. So, superior client experience, as you well know, is our firm motto. So it's very important to me, and it's something that we're striving to do here. What brought you to Virginia?
Well, a whim, frankly.
Yeah.
I was looking to either stay in Tennessee, where I'm originally from, or to try something new. And it wasn't Virginia in particular that brought me out here. It was just a matter of I found the University of Richmond. I liked it. And that was one of my options when I was applying for law school. And then I just never left.
Do you like Virginia?
I do. And specifically Richmond, because one, I loved the campus when I came out for law school, but just the central location. We're here, there's a good community here in Richmond. We're also close to DC, Northern Virginia for courts purposes. And then can't forget that we're not too far from the beach. I never had that in Tennessee.
No beach in Tennessee for you?
No. I mean, we have man-made lakes like Percy Priest Dam and other areas.
Right. But it's not the
not
same.
the same.
It's not the same. We were just at the beach, and I got sunburned terribly just recently. So how do you feel about the local bar here in Virginia?
I think the local bar, just the community in general, has been a great community to become involved with. I mean, the people that I went to law school with, generally pretty good people. I've been making what I think are good connections, and most of the people are pretty reasonable to work with, in terms of calling somebody up if you have a case that you need help with. Mm-hmm. You don't really get that much of the cold shoulder, at least in my experience so far. Right. Everybody's been pretty reasonable to hop on the phone, even if it's something where it might be a little competitive. But otherwise, yeah. I haven't had too many issues just reaching out to colleagues. It's been a great time.
Good. I want to talk a little bit about your involvement, because you do a great job of getting involved in the community, and I think that's an asset. What are the organizations you're involved in? I know you're in the Esports Bar Association. I know that you also are part of GRIPLA. What else are you part of that I'm not remembering?
All right, well, here comes my hard time trying to remember. So in terms of the local community, I've got both legal and non-legal organizations that I'm either a member of or tied to in some way, shape, or form. In the legal capacity, usually more relevant to this kind of conversation, I am currently working with a friend and colleague that I met in law school, Eli Hill, in the Lawyers for the Arts group.
Right.
So that's one of the organizations that's geared more towards pro bono representation of artists here in Virginia.
Very cool.
Heavily focused on transactional work, just because, we're lawyers who don't have a lot of resources to provide for free outside of more transactional practices for that pro bono representation. But outside of that, I am currently in leadership with the Greater Richmond Intellectual Property Law Association, GRIPLA, and we've been working on trying to build out programming there, but that's just a network of local IP attorneys. And I actually joined as a law student. They have great membership locally within the University of Richmond and then some other Greater Richmond area law schools. So those are probably some of the more predominant ones that I've been a part of. And then the Esports Bar Association It's one of the local, well, not local, but one of the gaming organizations that I have been involved with and follow just to stay connected with gaming attorneys more specifically.
Cool. So why participate in so many different organizations? Like, what's the drive there for that?
I have so many hobbies.
Yeah, a lot of interests.
I have a lot of interest. Sometimes, well, frankly, if you saw me in law school when I graduated, I had a bunch of cords because I was either involved with or had participated in some capacity in a lot of different organizations. And
I've frequently been jealous of your Order of the Barrister's certificate and your intellectual property law certificate and all of your stuff. So,
yeah, I was tired in law school. But anyway, I have a variety of interests, and I try my best to balance some of those things. It doesn't always work out, and a very healthy balance, but that's just part of being an adult. And yeah, I want to find as many ways as I can to work with artists, to work with creators. And I understand if you work in IP, intellectual property, you understand that there are a lot of different legal areas that require very specific expertise and nuance. Music industry has a lot of niche within the copyright law area.
That's true.
And, same thing with writers and other types of entertainers in general. So to some extent, that can be a little bit challenging to try to get that expertise and maintain that breadth. But that's why I try to get involved with these organizations. So if I am not technically an expert in one of those areas, I can at least partner up with a mentor or other member in the community and try to cover some of those gaps.
Very cool. Well, tell us about your career, what you've done since going to law school.
So since going to law school, my first job was really just document review. And then I joined this firm, which was originally Tingen Williams first, now Tingen Law. And the practice areas that I've covered have been immigration, business, and intellectual property. And so we've been trying to build that intellectual property and business practice area hub with the firm ever since. That has led to contract review for business clients. We've helped businesses establish business formation and other types of document review, such as corporate documents, articles of organization, articles of incorporation. We've done a little bit of everything.
We've done some trademark disputes as well.
Trademark disputes. We've
trademark
filed,
registrations, obviously.
Right. We've registered trademarks for clients. We've consulted with clients about their copyrights and registered some copyrights as well. So generally, we've worked in a little bit of everything within those basic categories. Yeah.
Right. So can you tell us about some cases or experiences that you've had that you really enjoyed as an attorney?
Yes. So like I was talking about before, I get a little bit of breadth in the clients, and I have different clients in each practice area that I generally have preferences with. When it comes to trademarks or business, one of the more interesting cases I've had recently involved a trademark dispute. We made it most of the way through the process, and then there was a notice of opposition that was filed. And so with the notice of opposition, that just means you made it through most of the process in the trademark registration process federally, but opposition means somebody that's third party that's not
opposed the mark.
Right. So somebody's opposed it. And it's more of a litigation practice at that point. I got to work with our litigation partner and yourself
Travis.
as well.
Right,
Travis as well as you on that one, which is, it's always just kind of fun to have a little team to work with. But, you know, when you're dealing with litigation, there's a strategy. Part of the strategy is what's our legal basis? The other strategy is how do we get through this? And what do we need to do to make sure that the client has their needs met. And sometimes those needs line up. Other times the client's interest goes
Right.
against maybe what we have with the particular legal needs at that time. So we got a little bit of negotiation practice working with opposing counsel. We were able to at least resolve the TTAB litigation, and then the matter from there then just evolved into more of a practical or a business consideration. And so you get to work on a lot of those skills, legal as well as practical.
Right. And I think for me, that is part of that superior client experience, right? So I think some attorneys, well, I shouldn't speak about other attorneys, but I think sometimes there's this prevailing view that a good attorney is an attorney that's fighting for you, right? Whereas I feel like, honestly, an attorney tends to do a better job for you if we're not fighting constantly, right? We can do a better job for you if we're negotiating. We can do a better job for you by saying, look, these are your legal options, and then helping you pick the right ones instead of just saying, let's fight this to the end, right? And so I feel that there are opportunities there that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, and just to briefly add there are some clients who really just want to fight. And sometimes it's out of spite. Sometimes it's just, I want to see this through. And, our job as an attorney is to zealously advocate for our clients. That's our ethical duty. And sometimes it's telling a client, I can't do that. Other times it's, all right, we may not have a strong case, but if that's what you want to do, I've told you the risk about going forward. Yeah. And if you're okay with that, then all right, we'll go ahead with it.
Yeah. So I feel like guiding the client is a really big part of being an attorney. That doesn't have anything to do necessarily with, like you mentioned, document review or writing a contract, but actually giving clear consultants type advice is really where it helps to help direct a client. Tell me about your style as a lawyer.
Well, we were just talking about attorneys who come out at the gate swinging. That's not generally my style. It's never been. And that was probably one of those things that was a challenge for me going through law school, where a lot of the competitions really reward those people who come out very charismatic. And frankly, the people who have theater backgrounds tend to do well. And
is that a dig at me, James?
It's not a dig because
okay, all right.
Somebody like yourself, my other mentors that have theater backgrounds, they just have experience with that kind of presence, right? Filling the room. And there are values to be brought, for those particular styles. I think my value is just being very humble and, reserved, which leads me to finding another solution without swinging at the other attorney. Yeah. And sometimes there's a great value in just waiting your turn and, being calm in a room where maybe the other attorney is
not as calm,
right?
Yeah, no, I do think that there's definitely calmness is in short supply when there's conflict sometimes. And so I do think that that's a benefit that you bring. And all right, so I wanted to talk about, have there been any changes to law or anything like that has come about as a result of what you've done?
Well, that actually is a good question. Not per se. I've been working, one of the types of cases that I've been working on is the special government juvenile status, and specifically relating to custody cases here in Virginia. And my cases haven't necessarily changed the legal perspective on it. We haven't received any case law changes, but I've been heavily involved in that area, and it has changed. I've been working with other local counsel and more or less shaping part of the practice here in the greater Richmond area. And so I can definitely say that that process has changed. The judges have become more familiar with how we bring the cases. And I've been commended by local judges based on how we bring those cases, though.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I think that's true, especially when it comes to these areas that intersect with our immigration practice and some of our other practices, like what you're talking about, that special immigrant juvenile status. I will frequently talk with lawyers who need, like you mentioned, local counsel who need our perspective with our expertise in immigration or another area to kind of help them cross over. And that's pretty typical. That's just part of practicing as a lawyer. Lawyers are always talking to other lawyers to get a better sense of how a particular detail or a particular nuance works, because it is literally impossible to know all of the law. I'm always kind of laughing when I see a lawyer-themed TV show and somebody like cites the U.S. code off the top of their head. I'm like, nobody memorizes the U.S. code, people.
I'm staring at you for that comment. If we're talking about inadmissibility, well, what's the code section?
It's INA 212, James. Stop talking. I know. I'm probably, but there are some
The
code
exception.
sections. There are some code sections you learn. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, I guess I'm the most likely to spout off a code section in the office, but
Yeah.
but I don't have like entire things memorized. All right. Tell me about an aspect of the law or legal practice that really gets you excited. Like if somebody was to ask you, what kind of law geek or nerd are you? What kind of law geek or nerd are you?
Man, the easiest way for me to describe this is it really just comes to somebody who's a creator coming in and saying, hey, I have this idea or I have this type of content. Can you help me plan for a way to protect it? Whether it's trademarks or copyrights, or just looking through contracts related to those types of content or property, so to speak. Because usually when somebody comes in with those things, I will metaphorically clear the desk and say, okay, this is what I live for. I always get a little burst of energy when I start to work on those types of cases. Not to say that I literally clear the desk and ignore my other clients, but
Right.
But
It gets you excited.
I always get excited with them. And, sometimes I get a little bummed at the same, because the clients will come in and they'll say, oh, here we go. This is the first time I've talked with the lawyer. And then I have to go through and be the bearer of bad news of here are the limits of what I can and can't do, or here are the limits what you as the client can or can't do. But I always enjoy the clients who are willing to, bear through some of those limits and actually push and innovate.
I think I know what you're getting at, but why don't you just discuss what some of those potential or common scenarios are? I mean, I know that a business might come and be like, I want to trademark this name, but give me some thoughts.
Yeah, so when we're looking at trademarks specifically, there are just a lot of rules. I mean, trademarks have been around, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of rules.
So it comes from common law, the idea of business practices and unfair competition. At least that's how we define it by Virginia state law standards. And so there are limits. The idea with the trademark is you get exclusive rights to a specific brand device, whether it's a logo, a slogan, a name, or another source identifier. And so with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, they have said, okay, look, this isn't new. If you try to use a broad category or a descriptive term, for example, that is descriptive for your industry, like I want to open a fruit stand and my business is called James's Fruit Stand, then what's really unique about your business? There's not really anything unique. You're selling fruit. Your name includes that kind of category.
Right.
So sometimes I get pushback from the clients because they'll say, hey, I have this really unique idea. And then we find out, okay, maybe it's not quite as unique as they hoped.
Right.
But in their eyes, they've invested significant time and assets to kind of bring that to the table. And so those are some of the limits that we as attorneys get pushback for, that's where they say, oh, well, you're no fun, right? And so our job is to say,
what is fun though? Making money and having a business that survives the trademark dispute. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, well, that's the thing. So our job is not only to talk about, okay, what is the way to ruin your fun?
Right.
It's also to say, look, what's going to make your brand sustainable long term?
Yes.
And so there probably will be some pushback. There will be some setbacks and some cost incurred.
Right.
And that's just part of the business, right? If you go into a business with the idea, my business model is perfect, I won't have any problems, then you're probably not going to be a good business person. If you went to business school, then you probably learned in some capacity failing is a benchmark.
Right. It's part of the process.
Part of the process. So if you think about it in that capacity, when you go to a lawyer and you have that conversation and they say, hey, look, you should consider adjusting this, then maybe it's a short-term failure in that kind of sense. But long-term, if you talk to an advisor, like an attorney, like a CPA, or another business mentor, and they give you feedback, you just need to be willing to take that feedback. I may not have the best solution for you at the time, but I've got my experience and expertise that I'm willing to share with you. And if we can make something work so that it's more sustainable long-term, then I think that that's where the magic in hiring an attorney for these types of business cases really starts to shine.
Thank you for saying that. And I just want to kind of jump in where you said failure is a benchmark. I forget what business book it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, there's a business philosophy that's based around or centered on this idea that we need to rush to failure as quickly as possible. Do you know what book I'm talking about?
I don't remember the book title, but I remember the concept.
We'll have to put it in the comments or something. Or if you know what it is and you're watching this video, put it in the comments. But there is a book out there where the idea is you want to rush to failure as quickly as possible to enable your opportunity to pivot as quickly as possible. And when you talk to somebody who has experience in certain areas, they might help you, figure that out sooner and help you pivot sooner, which then leads to more growth. It's very common for us to get businesses who come after they've received some kind of copyright or trademark cease and desist letter.
Right.
And so, the client's ability to accept that, okay, I need to change my behavior will indicate pretty quickly how successful they might be in the things that they need to do.
Right.
All right. Well, I want to switch topics for a minute. What is a legal issue in any of your practice areas, and a legal issue that bugs you, that you're just like, man, the law should not be like this?
Well, I would say on that part, just one of the most frustrating things to deal with as somebody who says they work in the IP space, it's just copyright law when it comes to fair use. And so honestly, fair use is what gets lawyers money, and fair use is also what causes stress and nightmares with attorneys in the same respect.
I know that you could probably go on and talk about fair use. I feel like every copyright lawyer could rant about fair use for at least 1 hour.
Yeah. And so just to get the point summarized very briefly here.
You can take your time, James.
Okay. Well, I mean, the idea here is that there are some types of code sections, there are some types of laws that are, in theory, supposed to be clear cut. It is this or it isn't this. You know, if you're going to get charged with criminal charges, you either meet a misdemeanor, you meet a felony charge, or, you know, there's different categories and ways to break it down. And if you don't hit that certain threshold, then, you know, you get a result. With copyright law, we have the other situation basically where we've got factors and there's discretion. It's similar in immigration, right? There are a lot of points in immigration law where you can work with a judge or the Department of Homeland Security and filter through to discretion. Honestly, discretionary cases like copyright and immigration enable a lot of creativity, but at the same time, it makes it hard for lawyers to guarantee results or guarantee anything with their clients when you go into it. The best that we can really say is, look, maybe we have some cases out there. We've got, Campbell versus Acuff Rose, one of the parody cases. That gives us a little bit of guidance. We've got Bad Spaniels and some of the other cases that kind of talk about copyright law and fair use.
Yeah.
But outside of those very, very nuanced cases, if you have something different, then you're just arguing. And that would be the gray area, so to speak, where I say lawyers get paid because, that's where we have
That's
to
where
argue.
lawyers live. Lawyers live in the gray area.
Yeah. Because there's not a guaranteed result. If there were a guaranteed result, then we wouldn't have as much work to do, right? It would just be, okay, they fit X, Y criteria, and because of that, they deserve, A and B result, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the challenges as a lawyer. You can never guarantee anything, right? But it is nice when you have a clear set of laws or decisions that kind of make it a little easier to predict, even though anything can happen once people start testifying. So
Yeah,
once you walk into a courtroom.
absolutely. And I mean, I can speak to this as I had a hearing earlier this week. We don't like surprises as
No, we
lawyers.
don't.
When you go to court and you call a family member or somebody that you haven't spoken to, usually that's where the crazy stuff or the wild things start to happen.
I like that. Wild.
Well, trying to adjust the wordage there. But
Yeah.
anyway, all the stuff that you see in TV or movies in general where they call
a courtroom is a zoo where everyone's surprised all of the time.
we've got surprise witnesses and stuff that, well, first of all, it's not quite as realistic, but then
Right.
second of all, if it is realistic, then everybody's going to be a little on edge trying to figure out how to adjust.
Right.
And the judges don't like it. The attorneys don't like it.
Yeah,
most
nobody
of the
likes
time.
a surprise.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, I want to ask you, what's something that you would want clients to know about working with you? What can they expect? Why should they hire you as opposed to some other lawyer?
Well, as somebody who's been told that I look quite young to be an attorney,
You just have a baby face, James.
I do.
That's all.
I do.
That's all it is.
no, but I mean, what I would say there is, to the extent that I do look young, I'll take that as an accomplishment, right?
Right.
I look young for my age, but here I am. I've been practicing for 3, going on almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been able to accomplish quite a bit within my time here.
Yeah.
But, to the extent that there is any kind of question about that, I mean, I am exactly as I am. When somebody comes in, I try to, as I mentioned before, I try to bring forth that calmness as well as that general level-headedness. And you might not get that with somebody else who is a younger attorney, somebody who's a little bit more eager to take on cases. Emotions might run a little bit higher, but I'm willing to bring that level-headedness to the case. And I care deeply for my clients and trying to bring the
true.
result. And so
That's true.
you might not be able to read that from my personality right away, but empathy is one of those other values. And just to kind of address one of those stereotypes, in the shows and other things, you'll see corporate lawyers or you'll see other people who are seen like robots.
Cold and callous.
Cold, calculated, and just not really valuing the client as a person.
Right.
But with our practice here and with my practice as an attorney specifically, that's something that I am working daily to combat, to bring a change in what lawyering could be and what it
Yeah.
should be.
I like to think that all the attorneys here care about people specifically and not just the law as a concept. I would also say don't sell yourself short, because there are a couple of other attributes about you that I think are very important as a lawyer. You take incredible notes, very detailed, and then you're consistent. And that's something that I think as a firm also we've been working on, consistency, and delivering kind of the same high quality level of experience no matter which attorney you're with. But you do that very well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I say it because it's true. All right. So tell me more specifically about what you're doing at Tingen Law. I know we've just kind of talked around, and I know that, the video started business and IP. I know that we're starting to roll out this fractional general counsel, something that we're building towards and building assets for that. And tell me, like, your role specifically at the firm, where you see this going for clients who are watching.
So I'll roll back a little bit in time. Part of the reason why I went to law school was just my interest in working with artists and creators. And so that was the idea I pitched when I joined the firm, that I wanted to work with creators. And it's been a little slow going to try to pick things up, but we've been progressing quite a bit, especially this most recent year. So what have I been doing? What do I want to do in this role? Well, working with businesses and creators to establish their brands, to protect their content. Those are all things that I have done and that we're trying to build with this current practice area. So whether you're somebody who is an independent or an individual artist, or maybe a solo, I was going to say practitioner, but an independent proprietor, sole proprietor.
Right.
If you're somebody who has an independent business, maybe you're running things all by yourself, we can step in that role and give you that legal edge and advantage, kind of get you caught up. As somebody who is a first generation lawyer, I see myself as filling in quite a bit. I've been learning so much about the legal practice area, the legal industry, since I joined not only law school, but afterwards. I mean, everything afterwards has kind of given me an opportunity to not only learn myself, but also to share that knowledge. And so I see myself as a helper when it comes to businesses. I didn't know a lot of these things even before law school in a lot of contexts. So how do we expect other business owners to know all these things all the time?
Right.
So we consult with businesses, we fine tune businesses that maybe have a little bit more business acumen. And then for anybody else that comes through, we can talk in a very professional and formal kind of way, but we can also consult and talk with people in a more personable and informal context to just figure out what people need.
Right.
So give a couple options there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, you mentioned your love of, or your desire to help creators and content creators in particular. And also, this is why you're part of the esports bar and those kinds of areas, which I think is really fun and fascinating and not something that a lot of lawyers do or have a lot of experience in. But, every content creator, if they're hiring a lawyer, it's because they've started to monetize. They have a business. And so it's that dual understanding between what it's like to be on the internet as a content creator and this business side, which is, like you said, new to a lot of people who are making content, who are creating things. I want to ask you, what has gotten you excited about Tingen Law, about working here? And then also, and I know I already asked, like, why should somebody hire you as opposed to some other lawyer? But I want to tweak it a little and say, why should somebody hire Tingen Law? Like, why are you excited to be here? Why should other people be excited to come here and hire us?
So with Tingen Law, one of the things that has frankly just been a very great experience for myself it's just the camaraderie that we have, you
Yeah.
know, between our clients, between the staff. We really do try to strive for that community aspect. And if you're working with us, then we try to make sure that it's not just me that you're working with, it's our office, you know,
Yeah.
it's the entire team.
Yes, I agree.
And so if you're looking for an independent lawyer or somebody who's going to tackle one issue, great. If you're looking for somebody who maybe tries to give you an all-inclusive package and to work with a team, then that's something that we've been building here at Tingen Law.
Yeah, I like that answer, and I think it's totally true. We've consolidated kind of our values to this card that we give to all the employees, and we have our mission statement. And I was actually looking at it this morning and considering, you know, at Tingen Law, we work as a team. That's the first thing we do, right? And so absolutely one of the advantages you get when you come here, because we do work as a team. So thank you for plucking that out. All right. I want to talk to you about your personal life. I want people to know who you are, and then we'll wrap up this interview. But
Are you about to dox me?
no, I'm not.
Okay. We'll get into privacy another time, right?
But what do you do in your spare time? I mean, you have a very eclectic set of things that you do. So I want you to share a little bit of that.
Yeah. So like I said, I have a lot of hobbies, too many hobbies, in fact. Right now, to try to balance some of those interests and the things that I like to do, I have been streaming with Team Gavel, and that's my way to maintain my gaming hobby.
And tell everybody what Team Gavel is.
Yeah, so right now, Team Gavel is our Twitch channel. We also have content that we upload on YouTube. We post all the VODs, the videos on demand there.
Mm-hmm.
But we are trying to figure that piece out. I mean, it's been a space where we've played video games and offered ourselves as an accessible law firm to kind of chat with other creators or,
Right.
Twitch viewers. If you want to come hang out with a lawyer in a less formal setting, that's a
There
great
we
place
are.
to do it.
Right.
We've also offered legal content where we talk about things like what is a contract, what are some basic areas that people should know, how do I build a brand? We've got actually a presentation where we're trying to build on some of those legal presentations just a little bit more. So that's coming your way soon. We're going to be working on that. But that's kind of where Team Gavel is right now.
Well, but I want figure skating,
Yeah.
bowling. Come on, dish.
Okay. So with all of my personal hobbies, it all just stems from, look, if I try something and I even moderately enjoy it, then it's going to turn into some kind of minor fixation for the rest of my life. And
Okay.
so,
All right, so that explains it. Gotcha.
so when I was in high school, I was on the high school bowling team, and I enjoy that quite a bit. I had such a great time with my fellow teammates, and I wasn't the best. Like, we had a person on our team that won state, and a lot of other very accomplished bowlers on the team, but like at the same time had a great time.
We just went bowling last
Yes.
weekend as a firm, and James helped me figure out finally how to consistently throw a bowling ball. And first time I've ever broken 100, just from a couple of minutes of advice from this guy. So pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So bowling's one of those hobbies. When I was in law school, I was actually working part-time at Starbucks, and not sponsored, by the way, but I was working there.
Copyright lawyer, not sponsored.
But yeah, so I was working there, and I met another barista that was teaching figure skating at a
no way.
time when I
I
was
didn't
watching.
know that's how it started.
Yeah, so I watched the Sochi Olympics, the Winter Olympics, with
Okay.
my wife, and it's kind of interesting, but she was like, oh, figure skating is always so pretty. Look how neat it is. And I had never, this is one of those things where I'll say it this way, I had never really cared, frankly, about the Winter Olympics quite as much. Maybe snowboarding. That was one of those traditional masculine things. It's
Right.
It's like skating, but skateboarding. So anyway, I had never considered figure skating. Well, I had an opportunity. I took it, and I am more or less like 5 years into skating at this point.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been to see you perform
Yeah, I've been doing the holiday shows with our local rink here. Have a great community of adult skaters, people who not only skated when they were kids, maybe stopped and came back, but also people like myself that never really took classes and just started later in life. So I am currently working towards my own solo exhibition piece that will have the Final Fantasy soundtrack, the prelude,
That's
as
your music
my
selection?
song. Yeah. We were trying to mix, my different hobbies together.
Right. No,
and
that's perfect. Thank you for telling me
it's
that.
great.
When are you doing that?
Well, there's a competition locally here this
You got to tell
September.
the office so we can go see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still need to officially register for it.
Okay.
But
All right.
anyway, I have classes tonight just while we're talking about it. So
Cool.
I really have enjoyed getting to work with my coaches there. It's been a great time.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, thank you for the interview. Thank you for talking to me. I hope that people, when they watch this, will feel like they've gotten to know you and can understand and trust you to handle their legal matter and know that you're a human being too. Anything else that you want to just tell people to finalize before we take off from the interview?
I would really just say, if you're a creator or somebody who has a question, don't feel shy to reach out. If we have the ability to just give you a consultation at a minimum, then that could save you a lot of time and hassle. And one of the stigmas of working with the lawyer is they're going to be expensive. They're going to shoot down all of my ideas.
Right.
Sometimes you need a push, and sometimes you do need somebody to give you that realistic perspective, which might include shutting it down or just trying to push you in the right direction. But that's been one of those areas where, as I meet more and more creators on Twitch, YouTube, or other platforms related in the entertainment space, just trying to make that a little bit more accessible, it makes the space greater because as more people reach out to lawyers, we can help shape what the space looks like
In positive ways.
in a positive way, because we get more feedback and we have more case law that we can actually use to affect change.
Well, and to help you turn what could be a hobby of content creation into a thriving business.
Yeah, and just to kind of carry over, a lot of attorneys that are in the esports space, whether they're company side or player side, have been working to kind of make it a safer and more sustainable industry. But like I said, it won't happen unless you as the individual get involved with attorneys or other people to help push. So we really do need you to help us.
Right. So give us a call. We're available to help. And like I said, we have James here is here to help you with our business and intellectual property practice. Thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you here at Tingen Law.